Hello, fight fans, and welcome to the Combat Challenge podcast. My guest today is a former UFC athlete with 9 fights under that organization and a total of 35 professional fights to his name. He is also the coach to the former welterweight champion Tyrone, the chosen one Woodley, and a star of Dana White looking for a fight series, Mr. Dean Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
One of the questions I ask all the athletes and coaches that come on board is to know a little bit about their MMA journey. Can you share with myself and the viewers your MMA journey from a young age, what sort of sports you got into and how you ended up on this MMA conveyor belt?
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird because, all through high school, well, even before that, like I always thought that I was a pretty good athlete, but I was very small. Like I remember being like 76 pounds in middle school, like 8th grade, I was like 76 pounds. And in high school, 110 pounds. Like I was a small guy. So, as men, like men are alpha. And I would always be intimidated by bigger guys. And like so that intimidation kept me from playing team sports. Like I wanted to play football, I wanted to play baseball, I wanted to play all these team sports, but I was so intimidated by other guys that I never could get outside of my comfort zone and go, all right, I don't care, I'm here. So after I graduated high school, I saw the UFC. My sister showed it to me. And I said, oh my God, there's this little Brazilian guy beating up all these big guys. I said, I have to learn how to do that. My life changed from that moment. I said, I have to learn how to do that. And so today you can pick up, you go on the internet, find a school in your area. There's 4 of them, you could throw a rock and hit a school. But back then there was nothing, no schools, nobody knew jiu-jitsu. It was nothing. So I would get Black Belt Magazine and look for seminars on the East Coast. So I saw the Rickson Gracie seminar in 1995. I drove there. The first night I slept in the car. It was a 2-day seminar. I drove there and I did the 2-day seminar with Rickson Gracie. Got another seminar, Ralph Gracie, another seminar, Marco Ruas, another seminar, Royce Gracie. So like I was doing seminars. All the while I was watching the UFC and studying it. And I was getting videos, Renzo Gracie, Craig Kukog, Mario Sperry, all these different videos and just collecting information. And it was me and my buddy, Paul Rodriguez. He's got a school in Orlando now. Like he stayed with it as well. And it was just us 2 training together. And I used to cut hair at the time. And I would tell the kids, so I had partners to train with, I would say, whoever could beat me in wrestling, I give them a free haircut. So I would just be wrestling guys in the yard. And nobody beat me. Well, one kid beat me. I'm still looking for him today. I'm still looking for him. I'm getting him back. But that's how it happened. Like I was kind of self-taught. Me and my boy, we were just learning information and traveling and getting it. And then we just started fighting. Then our careers took off, man. We just, one thing led to another. We just started fighting in different organizations and our lives changed forever.
Oh, and you're right. Nowadays, you could throw a stone and you can hit loads of schools, but back in the days, you'd have to have the VHS, and it was just surreal, wasn't it? Watching people fighting with wooden boxing glove on and pulling hair, and
yeah,
it was.
And if you knew a blue belt, like he was better than everybody. Like a blue belt back then was the man. Like he could beat up all your friends. So like if you had a blue belt to train with, you were good. So like we found when I moved, so I'm from Port St. Lucie. It's a small town in between Orlando and Miami. And I moved to Orlando to, because my boy Paul was going to school up there. So I moved to Orlando and they had a couple of jiu-jitsu schools up there. So there were like a couple of blue belts up there. So like we would train with these guys. And it was like, they were really good partners. Like blue belts at the time was like, if you had a blue belt on, you could beat up all your friends. So like, this is how we got started, man. Like just finding guys to train with, different wrestlers to train with, invading karate schools, invading boxing gyms, and just sparring with boxers, sparring with guys I had no business sparring with. But I really cut my teeth on it, and it really came up the hard way, learning how to do this on my own. And I think that me learning it that way helps me today to stay creative and stay open-minded and stay always more advanced thinking, as opposed to following trends. Because me coming up, there were no trends. I had to create my own trends. So now, as I'm coaching fighters, I'm still creating trends.
There must have been a stage where you got some sort of affiliation with a gym to then, you know, train and compete. Did that happen at some stage? And if so, what was that journey like?
So when I moved to Orlando, here's how it started. Like, I moved to Orlando, and there was a guy who had a karate school say, hey, listen, if you pick these kids up from school and watch them after school, I'll let you teach here at night. I said, man, you got mats, you got a space, I'll do it. So in return for working his after school program, he let me teach there at night. So, and mind you, I'm still fighting too. So like, I'm working a job, I'm picking kids up after school, and I'm doing all that different stuff. And I'm fighting in the UFC as well. Like, I had fought in the UFC and I'm doing this stuff. And so eventually I got my own place. And I had my own school for a while, my own MMA school for a while in Orlando. I was the very first school in Orlando. And but for whatever reason, man, like, Orlando just never picked up. Like, it's okay now. Like, they have, you know, Fusion and, you know, some decent fighters there now. But back then it was like they were party animals. So like, whatever reason, man, like I was like, man, I got to get out of Orlando. Like, they're just not catching up to the rest of the world. And I met a guy, Alex Davis, who managed me. He manages a lot of the Brazilian fighters that are in the UFC today. And I met him at the Marco Hua seminar. And he said, listen, I'll manage you. We're starting a new team in South Florida called American Top Team. Would you want to join? I said, man, I got to get out of Orlando. Take me. Just get me out of Orlando. And he did. He got me out of Orlando. I moved to Boca Raton. And that was right when American Top Team first started. And there I was. I had a new home and a new family and a new place to train.
And was that around about 15, 16 years ago when you joined ATT?
It was almost 20. It was like 2001, 2002.
Now, those viewers who are not aware, am I right in thinking you're no longer part of ATT and you've created a distance between them? And if so, how did that come about?
Well, yeah, I did create a distance, and that was, you know, just me just wanting to start over. You know, I think that for longevity in anything you do in life, it comes down to being able to reinvent yourself. So in order to be able to reinvent yourself, you have to kill a part of your former self. So, you know, and some people in this game are very territorial. And, you know, when you have an affiliation with somebody, they're like, stay away, stay away. So I wanted to get away from that. I didn't want the affiliation of, oh, he's with American Top Team, he's with American Top Team. Because, you know, I mean, you know, American Top Team's a great program. You know, they did a lot for me, but I want to be off on my own. And it kind of came about. It was last year. I was doing a camp with Tyron Woodley up at his place. And it's great when you got one guy to worry about. You wake up, y'all train, you focus on that one guy, go eat, have a good time, come back, train. And then that's it. That's all we're doing. And I'm like, this is great. I said, this is really what I want to do. I don't want to go in with a big room of people anymore and see a bunch of guys I don't know and deal with a bunch of problems I don't want to deal with. Guys I don't know, they're yelling at each other, they're fighting each other, and they're putting their problems on me. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So while I was in camp, I just had this feeling. I said, I got to get away from the big team thing and just focus on a couple of fighters that I want to work with. And at that moment, I just left. It was in March of last year, right when the pandemic hit. I told them, I said, guys, I got to go, man. You know, I appreciate everything y'all done for me, but I got to go. I want to do my own thing.
Well, it's good that you did it that way, Dean, because I'm sure they'll understand the reasoning behind and the rationale for you making that decision, right?
Maybe, but again, people are very territorial. I mean, this is a game where people are getting hurt and people make their livelihood beating each other up. So, they see me as competition now. So, I'm not with them. So now I'm against them. So, and I know it was going to be like that. And that's why I kind of really wanted to distance myself, because I didn't want to have any ties to them to where they're coming to me, asking me for advice or asking me to help them with stuff. And yet I'm like, man, I don't get paid no more. So, and some of them still come to me and ask me, and I'm like, I'm not under that payroll no more, so I get paid. I only eat what I catch, it's different now. So, but I had to distance myself from that. And it's not really beef. It's just very neutral. It's very neutral. It's not like a good or bad. It's just neutral. And I'm okay with that.
Brother Dean, you've converted your house into a bit of a gym so you can coach some specific athletes. Have you thought about a name for the gym that you've got in your house?
Well, Shorty Torres likes to refer to it as the firm. And the firm was something that King Mo came up with. It was like a project we were doing. We were creating videos and video content. And he wanted to call it the firm. It was me, King Mo, and Thiago Alves. But like I was kind of doing like the majority of the content, and I was running the site and running and doing it all. So when I moved out, I had banners and made up for it, and then a logo made up for it. So I moved out, and it just kind of stuck with me. Shorty still calls it the firm, so we still kind of call it the firm. Working with such a small group is that relationship is so important, and chemistry is so important, and being able to tailor what an athlete needs in order to get where they want to get. When you got a bunch of guys in a big room, that serves a different purpose. It can work for some people. The cream will always rise to the top. The better guys are always going to get better. But if you got some people with potential that need extra attention, it's hard for them to get that attention. And for me, so when I'm coaching my athletes, I try to give them my attention, and I try to tailor what they need. I look at them almost like a doctor. I like to look at myself as like a doctor. Like you go to the doctor, doc, I got a cough. Well, what is it? Is it bronchitis? Is it pneumonia? Well, what we prescribe you is going to reflect is based off of what it is, as opposed to going, here, you got a cough. We'll take some aspirin and it'll go away. No, I break my fighters down and try to figure out what it is that they need, and now I'm working with like Gillian and Shorty, and they couldn't be two different athletes. I mean, total opposite ends of the spectrum. They need different things. So I have to train them differently.
That reminds me a little bit about like the schools we have here in the UK. So in each class, you might have up to 30 people. So there's all those 30 people and there's one teacher teaching them. Now, his or her role is to kind of just engage with the whole. And in the class, there might be some that are struggling, some might be average, and some may have potential. But unless they have that private one-to-one tuition, they're just going to kind of get lost. And it seems like that's what you're focusing on, those that really need that one-to-one to be able to invest all your time in them, right?
Yeah, and I'm doing it with people who I feel like, not even necessarily that I feel like can become world champs. And I hate to say that because I think anybody could, but it's just they have the passion. And that's what it is for me. Like I felt like when I was coming up, I had passion. Did I have talent and ability? I don't know. Do the fighters I work with have talent and ability? I don't care, but they have passion. They're willing to put the work in. And if you're willing to put the work in, I'm willing to help you. And that's what I'm here doing, is I'm helping these guys because they have the same passion that I had. I don't want to have to motivate them to show up to practice every day. You got to show up on your own, and we're going to work. And that's what we do.
Last week, you mentioned two people there, Dean. Last week, I had the privilege of having a podcast with Shorty Torres. What a cool guy he is. How did that relationship come about between you and Jose, and how did he end up coming under your tutelage?
Well, he was a fighter at a top team, and he would come in, and basically, and Shorty's got ability. He's got a lot of natural ability, a lot of natural talent, but he's another one that he learns in a different way. He learns in a different way. He learns his way. And he'd be in the gym, and I'd see how helpful he was to everybody. And that used to bother me sometimes, because I'd be like, man, he's helping this guy get ready for a fight. He's helping this guy get ready for a fight. And then when it's his fight, nobody's there to help him. So like, and coaches are like, hey, Shorty, can you come help me with this guy? Can you come up? But then when he has a fight, they're like, gone. They're gone. So like, for me, that bothered me. Like, for whatever reason, I would just be like, that's not cool. You're using this kid, and he's got ability. And he was trying to make his way. Like, he has his career to look after. So I kind of I had a little relationship with him at the gym. And when I left, he was like, man, you're the only one who helped me. He's like, you were the only one who would help me. So he was like, can I come with you? And I was like, come on, let's go. You know, we'll figure this out. We'll make it work. Gillian the same way. Like, Gillian was only actually coming down there to train with me anyway. So like, it was a no-brainer that she came with me. But, you know, some other people down there, I think probably would have came, but I moved so far that, you know, it would have been they would have had to uproot their entire life. And, you know, Shorty, you know, he's a gypsy himself, so he can kind of pick up and leave when he needed to. But I think I could have had a few more come, but again, I moved away so far to separate myself.
The other person you mentioned was Gillian the Savage Robertson. Now, you've known her since she was 15, and how did that journey come about with Gillian?
Well, she just came in. You know, I had some affiliate schools, American Top Team schools in my city, Port St. Lucie, and, you know, just for regular students. And she came in as a regular student. I had a cardio kickboxing class for women, and she came in and she wanted to do that. I don't know, maybe, I don't even know if it was to get in shape, because like she's never played a sport. She's not really, and I make fun of her, but she's not really an athlete, you know, like she's just, so I'm not even sure why she wanted to do cardio kickboxing, but she came in to do cardio kickboxing, and she ended up liking it and having a good time doing it. And then, you know, one thing led to another. She took a jiu-jitsu class, and there's something about jiu-jitsu that when you choke out your first person, you're like, I'm hooked. And I've seen it with so many different people. And that, to me, like, that's where I get my pride from. Again, like, I don't like people being bullied. I don't like that. And I like seeing people overcome the odds. I like to see the underdog thrive. So, you know, like her, and I have a little cousin who just actually competed in the fight to win yesterday. She lost her match, but that's a different story. But I remember when she first choked out a grown man. Like, she was a young girl too, and she choked out a grown man, and her face lit up. And I was like, this is why I do this. It's not for money, it's for this. And Gillian was among that group when she started beating up guys and choking out grown men, and like, to see them light up, like, that's why I do this. So that's what happened. Like, she started doing jiu-jitsu, started beating up grown men. Then she started competing at the amateur level. Then she got on The Ultimate Fighter, and then, you know, one thing led to another, and here she is skateboarding to my house every day now.
Yeah, I saw the clip of that, because there's a clip of her skateboarding and waiting for you to turn up in your soccer mom's car. I think you described it as.
Yeah, my soccer mom's car. That was a rental.
Obviously, you really enjoy coaching, Brother Dean. Along your MMA journey as a student, has there been any coaches or mentors that have played a significant part in your life? And if so, if you can share that with myself and the viewers.
Yeah, there's, you know, I'm the type of guy that likes to learn from everybody. You know, I take from anything I can take from. You know, a lot of my mentors are actually not even in the martial arts world, and I take from a lot from, you know, acting. But let me go back into the martial arts world for a moment. So like, in terms of that, like coaching, like I've been really heavily influenced by a gentleman by the name Master Lloyd Irvin, up in DC, in Washington DC. My biggest influence as to what I tried to model some of my work around, and because he's such a good businessman, he created his own systems for business as well as creating good athletes. I mean, so I really did look up to Lloyd Irvin, and if there's anybody in the martial arts that I really looked up to along the line, and that would be him. In terms of my overall approach, like I like to consider myself an artist, and I've had so many good teachers in the arts, like a lot of acting teachers. And the one thing about arts is that they're all the same. Like everything is the same. It's focus and attention to detail. What is your objective? What are you trying to accomplish? And I've had some acting coaches. One that I like to mention is Tom Todoroff out of New York, and he's just been extremely instrumental to me in my learning process and just my performance process. Just the way he thinks, and I'm just like, he's so brilliant. He's so smart. He's so brilliant. So I would say the two most influential people that I've had coming up was probably Lloyd Irvin and Tom Todoroff.
There'll be viewers watching this, Dean, who are interested or already on the journey as a coach. What traits have you picked up along the way that's helped you become a more astute coach? And if you can share some of that with us.
Again, just paying attention to the world. And also too, I do a radio. You're like, you do so much. I do I have my hand in every little thing, but I do a radio show, an ESPN West Palm. And it's a sports radio show. Now, I don't watch a lot of sports, but I have to talk about it. And talking about sports, I get inside some of the coaches. So, because we're always talking, the schemes of football and basketball, and they're talking about this coach and that coach. And I'm paying attention to this, and I'm looking at how these guys operate. And I go, well, MMA is so different. But why? It's because it's new, and we don't understand it the way they understand their sport. So when I look at a guy like, Bill Belichick, how systematic and scientific he is, the way he runs the schemes and develops his teams, I look at that and go, why can't I do that for MMA? I know just as much about MMA as they know about football, because I helped create the sport. So if I help create the sport, I know just as much as they do about their area. So I can be just as scientific or artistic, whichever way you want to look at it.
And am I right in thinking that the Amanda Nunes and Ronda Rousey, when they had their fight, you played a part in trying to put together a game plan for Amanda, and how did that come about?
Yeah, and I think that was one of my bigger attributes to American Top Team is, my ability to read fighters and pick up tendencies and come up with answers for it. And so they asked me to, and I was doing scouting reports at this time. So, actually another guy that I worked with coming up, Rolly Delgado, he's a hidden gem out in Little Rock. If you're ever in Little Rock, Arkansas, go see Rolly Delgado. He's a hidden gem. He actually is the coach for, who's the guy that just got the camo shorts? I'll think of it in a moment. But Rolly Delgado, he's brilliant. So me and him had a business called MMA Scouting Report, where we were studying fighters. So like that helped me to start studying fighters. So, but it just didn't pop off. Like we did it too early. Like nobody had money to pay for it. But I continued to do it on my own and just study fighters. And I was just doing it like for my own knowledge. And I was learning so much about the game. And so like that was one of my stronger attributes for American Top Team, was like studying fighters and coming up with game plans. So they asked me to do that for Amanda and I did it for her for Miesha Tate, actually the second Valentina fight, when she was actually the one she pulled out of. And I did it for Ronda Rousey, Cyborg. I've been doing it for Amanda ever since Miesha Tate, put it that way. So when I came up with the game plan for Ronda, I studied Ronda. I didn't just watch her in awe, because that was the thing, is everybody watched her in awe. They watched her and said, she's the best ever, that she's so great. But I watched her from a perspective of, what does she do well? What does she not do well? How is her feet? Like all these little different things. And I realized she wasn't that good. I said, she's not really that good. But what she's good at, she's great at. but what she's not good at, she's terrible at. So then I said, what we need to do, and I learned this from a football coach, find out what somebody's good at and take it away from them. So we said, all right, this is what Rhonda's good at. Let's take it away from her. This is what she's bad at. Let's bring her here. And Amanda did. We came up with a couple of different ways to take away her strengths and make her fight from her weakest areas, and it worked out.
Well, it stood in good stead for the Lioness, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, she's, and she's such a special athlete too, that she can kind of pull off anything she wants.
Has there been a fight, because you've had over 30 professional fights and amateur fights before that, has there been any fight that has been the most rewarding for you? You don't have to be one that you won. It could be some sort of adversity. Is there anything that comes in to your mind and that you could share with myself and the viewers?
Yeah, I would have to say, I had a fight in Japan. It was, I think it was 2000 or 99 or whenever it was. It was in Shudo, and I fought a guy named Mishima. And I remember going to Japan and just, not being able to sleep, being incredibly jet lagged. I was up walking around the streets in the middle of the night, and it was like really hard on me. And when the fight happened, I'm sitting there thinking, all right, I'm going to just go beat this guy up, and just go home. Let me get out of this country as fast as I can. When that guy grabbed me, what I tell you, he felt like a lion, like I was a lion, and he was a lion, and I was like a piece of steak. When he grabbed me, I never felt nothing like it. I was like, oh my God. And he was tossing me around like a rag doll, cutting through my guard, and I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But I stopped for a moment and I heard him breathing heavy. I said, man, he's getting tired. If I can just not get finished, if I can just make it out of this round and not get submitted, I think he's going to be tired. So I just willed myself through the end of the round. And second round came, he grabbed me again, and God, he was so strong. So strong. But again, he was breathing even heavier. So I said, all right, I'm just gonna wait it out. And then finally I caught him with a knee to the face, and he was done. And I just rained on him. Boom, boom. That was probably for me the moment I knew that I had something. I was like, man, I got a pretty decent fight IQ. I'm pretty tough. I took a butt whipping, and I was able to talk myself through it and stay composed enough to still pull off a win against a guy who was probably better than me. That's the sign of a good fighter. Like a good fighter is going to win the fights they're supposed to win, but they can also win fights that they're not supposed to win, right? So like bad fighters, they sometimes lose fights they're supposed to win. Good fighters don't do that, Good fighters win the ones they're supposed to, and sometimes win the ones they're not supposed to.
Well, that story that you just told, Brother Dean, it reminded me of the fight in Zaire between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, and his fight IQ, that rope-a-dope, tiring him out, and just weathering that storm. Because Muhammad Ali, people were saying he's going to get killed. Look at the size of George Foreman, and he's going to absolutely annihilate him. But he had that fight IQ, right?
Yeah, it's fight IQ and a mental toughness, and that was something that I was talking to Khabib about when on the last episode of Looking for a Fight, and that was something he was talking about. Having a high fight IQ and your mentality versus your heart. Like some people have one and not the other because they're kind of different. Like having heart, you're going to keep going forward, but you can lose up here, but still be fighting. But a person with a high fight IQ with a good mindset, they're going to stay within their realm and stay within their game plan and continue to make good decisions in the fight and not just fight with their heart, but they're going to continue to make good decisions.
Yeah, I think, was that the one with Conor McGregor that he was talking about and saying that he was getting a bit emotional and then he had to kind of rein himself in? Yeah,
for sure. And that's the one where he thought I was Yves Edwards, and
Wow. Brother, listen, you got to tell that story now, right? Because I was leaving that, but you got to tell us that story where he thought you beat up Josh Johnson.
Yeah, he's like, well, yeah, like, like we're sitting there talking for a little bit. Then he goes, hey, you fought my teammate. I'm like, and I'm thinking back, I was trying to, like, in my head, like, go through my Rolodex of opponents of, like, who was his teammate? And then I go, oh, who? And he goes, Josh Thompson. And I'm like, oh no, he thinks I'm Yves. So then I was like, man, that was Yves Edwards. That's not me. And I'm like, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, brother. But that's not the worst of it. I thought that at that point he would be like, oh, you're not Yves, you must be Dean. And he's like,
and what's your name?
Who are you? He's like, what's your name? And I'm like, I'm Dean Thomas. He goes, oh. And then he goes, you fought before? And I was like, oh no, it keeps getting worse. I'm like, yeah. Here, look at me. I'm pulling out my phone. Like, look, I fought. I got a record. Look.
Yeah, because
it was embarrassing.
It goes to that one clip where you're kind of saying, it hurt me, man. It hurt me that he didn't even know me, and I've been here 9 times in the US.
Yeah, like at one time I was the man, But you know what? To be fair, I mean, I don't even know when he started. Like, he might have started fighting like when I left the UFC. So, like, I mean, there wasn't a lot of crossover between me. Like, there's only 2 guys that are in the UFC right now that I fought, and they're on their way out. Jeremy Stevens and Clay Guida, especially Clay Guida. He's on his way out. Other than that, man, there's not a lot of crossover. This around when I was doing my thing. So.
Oh, but that was funny. Because I was going to ask you about that anyway. That was just. It's like,
yeah.
What's your name? Like, I'm Dean Torres.
And I could just, and I could hear. I couldn't really hear, but I could feel the camera guys laughing. Like, I knew they thought they were getting a good chuckle out of this. I could feel them laughing. Like, I was like, I know they're going to air this. This is not going to be good.
But it's great because then they cut back to you and you're kind of saying, look, it really hurt me. And it did. I was like, yeah, he'd know me. I'm Dean Thomas. He'll know me. So
yeah, man, every once in a while, we need to be humble. That's it. You got to get humbled every once in a while.
So you're on this Dana looking for a fight series and you've been doing it for years. I got to ask you, brother, how is it working with that dynamo, Matt the Terror Serra? How is it working with him?
It's great. Matt is one of my best friends. Man, I love him to death, man. Well, I can't really say enough good stuff about Matt. I mean, he's just really a great guy. Like, that's, at the end of the day, Matt Serra is a great guy. And, man, I'd go to war for him, and he's just really a down to earth, fun, really honest person, and there's nothing you could really say bad about the guy. So yeah, if somebody says anything bad about him, don't trust that person.
But the thing, what I'm saying is, he is hilarious. The stuff that he was doing.
Oh yeah.
There was the one where you guys were going and having some food, and you had some rice, and Matt was trying to eat with his hands, and he was trying to. The rice balls were like snowballs when he finished. What's he doing?
Matt is like he's like an old school comedian. Like he reminds me, like he's like Don Rickles reincarnated, or like the Three Stooges. Like, he really just lives a life like that. Like, that's his life. Like, he's like a big child. He just lives this life of comedy, and you can't pull it out of him. That's just who he is, and I love it. I love it about him.
Well, the thing, because even in that one clip, the shawl's coming off, and then that's falling off, and then there's more rice on the floor than what there is on the plate, and it was just hilarious. Yeah. But there was one clip, Brother Dean, where the chef there is making a traditional lamb dish, and you look at the chef and you say, so when do we learn to make this motherfucker in some hot sauce? I'm like, yeah. The chef looked at you and he must have thought, what is this guy on about, right?
Yeah. I know. I gotta, Like that's the thing with the show is that, and I think it works because we're all so different. We all bring a different dynamic. Like Matt is Matt. Like you can't compete with Matt. Like Matt is going to win every time. So no one tries to compete with Matt. And Dana's Dana. Dana's the boss. So you can't. So I fit in good for whatever reason. Like our chemistry just works, and I think the show is successful because of that.
It is successful. You've also how did the inception of Dean Diaries come about, and what kind of motivates you to do them?
Well, we were in Abu Dhabi, and something happened where like they were supposed to film something else, but they couldn't do it. So they had this budget run over, and and for whatever reason, instead of just like, allocating them funds to something else, they were like, well, we need to use this budget to film something. And I was staying in Abu Dhabi for another 2 weeks. So they were like, man, they said, since you're, let's talk about your time here. And I was like, all right, cool. And they were like, because we have an extra show we have to film, and we have no other ideas, because when you're in Abu Dhabi in a bubble, there's only so much you can do. So I said, all right, well, let's, I got, my fighters coming out here, and I'm going to be here. So let's put something together. So then that's where it came out. It started and it did okay. And then we did another one, going to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's. And then I just shot another one in Abu Dhabi this time. And I think we're starting to get some legs on this thing, and it's starting to move. So.
And I saw the one where you went to Wonderboy's gym, and you were having that conversation with him about how he generates that power, from his back leg. He kind of just punches in, and it was cool to watch as well, and just picking up that knowledge from him and how he does that, because he's got a weird sort of stance, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's got such a traditional karate stance. Like really what he does is the same thing he teaches 5-year-olds to do. It just works. It just works. And that's, one of the philosophies I have as a coach. Like if you do it right at the right time, it works. He finds he's made it so he can use his art at the right time. So it works. Like everything you do, if you do it right at the right time, it works. It works. And especially works against guys who don't believe it works. That's why he had so much success coming up, because karate back in the day was a joke. We laughed at people who did karate. Now, who'd have thought? It's like one of the major arts now, and Wonderboy makes it work. He makes it work, and it's serious, and so you got to respect it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what the Dragon did, right? When he came on, Lyoto, people were like, "Oh, karate, karate."
Yeah.
And the fact that he could just time it, and just before the other person's reaction, bam, he was in there quick and out.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way it works. I mean, if you're good at it, you're good at it. And like these guys have that tool, that skill set. And I think there would have been a lot of other guys who would have been good at it, but they abandoned it because it had such a bad reputation. And there were other guys who probably were good at karate, but it had such a bad reputation that they abandoned it and started, doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling, and they left their karate behind. But Wonderboy said, no, this is what I'm good at. I'm going to make this work. And he makes it work.
Brother Dean, you mentioned about coaches, and you mentioned that some of the acting coaches have contributed towards, and shaped and molded you as you are now. You yourself are now an actor, my friend, and on your bio on Instagram, there's a link to Sandbox Memories. Can you tell? I've watched him. I can't believe you play such a serious role, my brother, because I see you on Fight Island. Well, that's what acting's all about. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sandbox Memories and how that came about?
Well, so, I've been acting. I first got interested in acting back in 2004. So I've been interested in it a long time and taking classes. Like I was taking classes back then. But then I stopped for, my fighting career took off. I stopped for a while. Acting is not just like show up, remember lines and say them. Like it's like being a fighter. Like it takes training and practice, and you got to study, and it's a whole process. So while I wasn't doing the traditional acting, I was doing a lot of improv. There's no memory involved in that. It's just play. So like it was, but it's still good for, listening and paying attention and creation. So I was doing a lot of improv. So while I was doing improv, there's a whole community down in West Palm Beach that I do improv with. So like we're all buddies, and we're all just guys that, that want to make it and do our own thing. So we were like, all right, so what are we gonna do? We're gonna move to New York, we're gonna move to LA and be, we're like, no, that's not gonna happen. So we're like, let's create our own projects. We can play the roles that we want. We can write the parts that we want and play the roles that we want instead of auditioning for roles that we might not get. Hence Sandbox Memories came about. One of my guys, he's one of the guys wrote it. Another one directed it. We acted in it. We filmed it, and there it is. And we got another one coming out in a couple of weeks called The Brotherhood, and that's with Yves Edwards and Rashad Evans. So I brought those guys in to act in it. But again, we're just guys from the West Palm Beach State College's drama program, trying to do our own stuff because I'm not waiting around for anybody to give me a part. And I told them, hey, listen, when this drops, let's do another one and another one and another one. I'm not waiting around for no parts.
Sound like DJ Khaled there, my friend, and another one and another one.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. It does take place in like a sports bar. And I thought you would play like a traditional kind of slotted into MMA role, that you're there and you're an ex-MMA fighter and you've now become something else. But it's completely different. And I encourage anyone to go and have a look at it because it's about 20-25 minutes, right? So it's not a long film.
Yeah, we do shorts. I mean, obviously, like we don't have a big budget to do like features or anything, but you can still tell a story and still get some experience doing short films. And I think that's like where we are at now, is that we're just trying to tell stories and do it the best way we can. But yeah, Sandbox Memories is on YouTube. Check that out. Then we got another one coming out called The Brotherhood. Check that out when it drops. But I'm gonna this year I'm gonna keep pumping them. Everywhere you look, you're going to see me doing something else with a different hat on.
I've got a question from a fan, and it's from a friend of mine called Connor Halliday. And the question he asks is, how do you define the importance of having a working relationship and a personal relationship with athletes? Because he mentioned that your relationship with Gillian is so cool to watch. Is that something that you could share with us?
Yeah, I mean, and that's such a good question. I mean, it really is, because I think a lot of times it's such a touchy subject because it's such a fine line. Because the first thing in terms of professionally, well, and this is why I left American Top Team, because I was working with a lot of guys that I didn't even like. I don't even know them. I didn't like them. I didn't know them. So I'm like, why am I helping these guys? Well, I was getting paid for it. And I don't want to work that way. I don't really, this is not really me, like I have a little bit of a different type of integrity where I'm like, I want to help people that I like. So, Gillian is somebody that I like sometimes, but I want to work with people that I like. So the bottom line is like, I have to like them. They got to have, and then secondly, they got to have the passion. I'm not motivating you. And then after I have those parameters, then I set real boundaries. The boundaries are, I don't tell you what you do in your life. I don't like Gillian probably, I don't know who she's dating or if she's dating. Like, I don't get involved in any of that stuff. I don't get involved in, you can't get involved in stuff because we're still a person, we still have a business relationship. So part of me trusting them is that they're going to do the right thing in their real life. They're not like, got bodies in their trunk or anything like that. So like, that's part of me trusting them, that I don't have to worry about what they're doing outside in their personal life. And because I don't have to worry about it, I don't ask them about it. So like, I don't know much about their personal lives, only what they tell me. And I don't really get into it because it's not my business. So I like them enough, and I give them that privacy, and those are the boundaries. And it's kind of the same way. Like, they don't ask me too much about my life. Those are the boundaries. And I mean, if they did, and I was uncomfortable telling them, I wouldn't tell them. So, but again, like, I have a good relationship with them. I like them all, but we have boundaries, you know. And I think that's the important thing, is that you set your boundaries and go, I don't want to get involved in your personal life.
You're right, and that's why you've got that longevity for so long, working with people like Gillian and others that you'll be working with, because you've got those boundaries and you're on your track. And you know, if they want to disclose something, that's different, but you're not going to go and look for stuff, right?
Yeah, right, yeah. You know, the thing is, like, if she came to me and said, "Oh, I'm having guy problems," I would talk to her. Like, we would work it out. Like, if they're having problems that are affecting their performance or are affecting our business relationship, then we got to talk about it. But other than that, I don't get involved in their private lives. I don't get in, like, Shorty, none of them. I don't get involved. Like, sometimes maybe Shorty, because, like, he lives here. So, like, like, I want to know who's coming in my house. So, but I don't get involved in their private lives. Like, whatever they want to do is on them. I don't care. Just, don't, make sure it's legal. I don't want no cops coming over my house. I don't want the IRS coming to my house. I don't want anybody coming to my house that ain't here to trade. Yeah.
You're on this conveyor belt, and when it comes to competing, you've done it at premiership level and coaching, and now you're doing the acting. Specifically for athletes who are competing or on the conveyor belt, but they're a little bit lower than you, what advice, knowledge, and experience could you share with them, D?
I think the most important thing, and that might be the theme of, what this entire, segment is about, and that's just passion. You got to have passion for what you're doing. You can't be doing this for money. If you do it for passion and you are doing it regardless, the money will come. But you can't be involved in this for money. You can't, because you'll sell yourself out and you won't enjoy it. You have to enjoy what you're doing. You have to be passionate about it. And that has to come first. Like, your integrity to your art has to come first. As a young fighter, the worst thing that I hear fighters say when I go, "Hey man, I got to fight for you," and they go, "How much?" I go, "Never mind. I'm going to go to the next guy." Because if you're worried about how much, it doesn't matter how much. It's not what you want. What you want is you want to be able to get experience and win. Because what really counts is that when you get to the UFC, that's when you make your money. And if you're going to be nickel and diming at this level, $400 or $500, and if that's not good enough for you, then you're in the wrong sport. You gotta fight. It's got to be about the sport and the fight, not about the money.
Dean, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your knowledge and experience. And I'm so grateful, and hopefully in the future, we'll be able to engage like this again.
We will, definitely. Anytime you want me, man, just send me a message.
Thank you so much, Dean. Take care, my friend, and speak to you soon.
Peace. Stay blessed.